everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Powerful Stuff, your magic elixir, your potion, your devotion to inner and outer connection with a little bit of fun, a little bit of cheekiness, your down-to-earth spirituality, some would say, or at least I would say that, and hopefully you do too. And I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today because I wanted to kind of share my musings of my 4-month trip that I've been on with my husband. We probably won't get to all of them today, but let's just scratch the surface, shall we? Yeah, I'm coming to the end of our at least part in Latin America. I have my friend Alex's wedding next week, and I wanted to share some of my musings with you because I think that it can be powerful to take time when we're kind of closing any chapter to reflect. What are we going to take into the next chapter? What have we learned from this? And while I've been traveling, regardless if you've been traveling or not, it's also about to be March, which is kind of like this idea of full bloom, which you might have heard me talk about in the past of what are we shedding and what are we taking with us from this winter, this hibernation, this cocooning, and how are we planting that seed for what comes next? And so I feel like winter really was kicked off for me when we left on this trip and went to Peru to start off with. We actually didn't plan the trip basically at all. We just kind of were like, okay, we know we're leaving at the beginning of November because my friend Juju has her wedding in Brazil. And so we like found a sublet, and literally it was like we were in the airport in California, and I was texting my coach's coach, who he said like lives in Peru and has a retreat center, being like, hey, can we come stay at your place tomorrow and do some ceremonies? And he responded like right before we were about to board, like, sure, I'll see you in Cusco tomorrow at 1 p.m. Anyway, so we got to Peru, and that first week, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it was like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Highest of highs because I had my biggest launch ever, like launching both the Upgrade group coaching program, my signature 3-month, 12-week transformational program to help you tap into your inner power and confidence. And by the way, the next one, the 10th, cohort is starting in April. So if you're interested, hit me up. But it was also my Upgrade Mastermind, which is for my graduates, where we do a monthly call as a group and as a one-on-one. Anyway, so that was a high, right? Like, I'm like, amazing. I'm so grateful that I get to be doing what I love, leading women to connect to their power in a group of, other amazing women, and everyone's inspiring each other. And then the low that week, and while doing it while traveling, like, how amazing is that? I'm so grateful. And that like also funds my travels. And I'm like, yes, universe, thank you, more of this. But it was also a low that week. I'm not going to lie to you, because the election was that week in America. And I felt both on a, level of worry for the collective and like humanity and our democracy, and on some personal levels for certain issues, and for my friends in different like subsets of populations, but just really for everyone who's not a billionaire. I felt really sad that week. I felt really sad. I felt really angry. You might have listened to a Powerful Stuff episode I did that week about how to find hope in times of hopelessness, and I need to return to that episode from time to time. Not gonna lie. So, anyways, that week we went into 3 ceremonies, and my lesson from Peru, the message that I got was twofold. Like, one, kind of a personal lesson around expectation, around not trying to plan and control things so much, because I kind of rob myself of the joy when I do. And there's so much I could be focusing on of what is, like accepting what is. And that also goes for like, I had like flashbacks to like my wedding, and, like ways that I could have released expectation even more, and also like focus on who is and what is, not who isn't, which I've also done a podcast episode before. So that was one musing. And then another musing was, about the election. And I felt so much anger. I felt so much anger to the people who like put Trump in office. But then I realized, like, we all, like, that's not the way. That's not the way. It's not to like fight fire with fire, or, it's also not to say like, to make me right and somebody else wrong, but to focus on what I can do and who I can serve. And it's speaking to the people who might feel hopeless and reminding them of their light in times of darkness. and it's reminding myself of my light in times of darkness, and helping people see that, and creating an open and loving and compassionate and empathetic space the way I would hope other groups would do for us, or and so it's like the Michelle Obama quote, when they go low we go high, like in the sense of like not, or channeling any resentment or anger into like hope, into what I can control, into not, into releasing anger and processing it and getting the rage out of my body, but focusing on like the people that I can serve versus like uh venting about or holding so much anger toward others, and channeling it into something productive. And that's been a huge one for me, because I feel like obviously the election was just the tip of the iceberg, and that's been a topic that's carried us to the present day and feels even more like pervasive now, as we're starting to see some of the changes this administration has done, and it's already like affected people I know personally in a very negative way. And so I have to continue to return to that and remind myself not to like sound or be spiteful toward others, but to instead focus on preserving my hope, helping other people preserve their hope, and preserving my joy and helping other people preserve their joy. And that also comes with protecting our mental health, staying informed, but also knowing when like you've hit your capacity that day, mental health wise. So anyways, that was kind of the first lessons from Peru. And it was really beautiful. It was really like hard, and like kind of processed a lot with that, in kind of the idea of preserving joy. And I was talking to another friend about this, and I think he put it beautifully, of like joy is an act of defiance, and no one in power can take away your joy. Like that is your freedom. And so when you have that joy and when you cultivate your joy, you're also like being a shining light for others, and you're able to get more done because you're feeling more energized and you're feeling more productive. So it's not selfish, and it's not something to feel guilty about. It's actually necessary. And so, yeah, that was one that I kind of felt and saw in my ceremonies, but really have also been working on integrating since. And then in like Bolivia, it was amazing. We went to Lake Titicaca and visited Isla del Sol there, which was really, really beautiful. And Lake Titicaca is the highest elevation lake in the world. We also did Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia, which are the Bolivian salt flats, the largest salt flats in the world. So those were, we kind of got like our sightseeing in Peru and Bolivia. In Peru, we saw Machu Picchu. And then, yeah, I feel like kind of lessons from Bolivia to Brazil. And then once we got to Brazil, we had Juju's wedding, and then we had, a week in Florianopolis, and went to Iguazu Falls at the Brazilian-Argentine border. So these were all like amazing sights, but I felt like we were in sightseeing mode and we were bopping around so much that after like 2 weeks of it, I think 2 weeks is a great amount of time, but like more than that, I was starting to kind of feel like ungrounded, and that like I realized in that 2 weeks that it's really great to kind of be clear on like your intention or your values when you're traveling in terms of what you want to prioritize. Because I guess the second lesson from this chapter was prioritizing being in one place and community, and not necessarily needing to see every natural wonder in an area just because you're like closer than maybe you would be otherwise, but really focusing on like, what is my intention for this trip? Like, do I want to like relax and like connect to a new community? Do I want to learn a new skill? Do I want to completely recharge and unplug? Do I want to like completely adventure and send it? And I don't think I was kind of fully clear in that chapter. And then by the time we got to Christmas, we had been like kind of doing that bopping around for, let's say, like a month and a half. I was kind of starting to feel a little sad, like missing my community back home. We got to Rio, and we had our meetups with our friends Glenda and Blake, which was amazing. Who run Ola Beach Tennis in with Brian Price in LA and Miami, if you guys have ever been, which is an incredible community. But yeah, anyway, so that reminded me of like, oh my gosh, I crave community, whether it's like prioritizing seeing friends that I already know, or it's like staying in one place long enough to meet community. That was like a huge wake up call for me. And we tried to work hard to kind of design the second half of the trip around that, not to take away from the stuff that we saw the first half of the trip. It was amazing. I'm so grateful to see those natural landmarks, but also it was kind of like, yeah, I realized like that's my heartbeat is like getting to connect with other people and seeing my friends. So that was kind of a lesson in Rio. And then the second lesson in Rio, I had been in Rio, and I talked about this on another pod episode, but I had been in Rio, when I was 18 for, actually 19 for a summer working in the favelas, helping report on human rights violations in preparation for the World Cup and the Olympics, and doing grassroots community journalism. And I was also taking bossa nova classes. I was learning Portuguese. I loved like meeting new Brazilian friends and like, yeah, just like being in the flow of the city and the pulse of the city. And so being back, like, kind of reminded me of that part of myself of like immersing myself in the local culture, like learning so many new people's stories. And it like helped me rediscover that like vibrant Meredith from, 19 years old. And the lesson there was like taking more time to reconnect with the old parts of myself, because there's, of course we grow and evolve and we have wisdom, but like what parts of ourselves, like from our past, do we really cherish and love? Of course, sometimes we can look back at parts of our past and wish we did certain things differently or things that were cringe, but they're all parts of us. And like let's take time to honor those and call those forth. So after Rio, we did a little pop over to Buzios, which is a beautiful beach town, and then we were in the jungle in the Amazon near Manaus in Brazil for New Year's. And it was just Spencer and I and some locals in this jungle lodge. And we went on some jungle tours with our guide, Jungle James. Shout out to Jungle James if you're listening. He's this amazing guide in the jungle, ex-military in Brazil, like can hear a toucan and point it out from like a mile away, or a sloth. Like he can like grab a leaf and tell you what natural remedy it is, like for a certain ailment. But anyway, so it was just us and like Jungle James and like the locals of that particular area in the Amazon. And while it was so incredible to be in nature, I'm not going to lie to you guys, Spencer and I had our biggest fight ever there. And it was like bittersweet, right? Because we're like in the jungle doing a bucket list item. And we're fighting. And, that sucks, because you're like, I really don't want to be doing this right now. I want to be like enjoying this. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're in the Amazon. That must be so amazing. And you're like, Spencer and I are literally having like a big fight right now. So what I learned from that and what I'm proud of is that we like leaned in. We actually booked like an emergency session with our couples coach who's trained in the Gottman method, which we love and can't recommend enough. And shout out to our friends Jake and Renata. Again, if you guys are listening, for recommending Gottman. I always love to give credit where credit is due. I feel like acknowledgement is so powerful. So anyways, we booked an emergency session with our coach. We kind of talked about our deepest fears. We also both gave each other time to kind of sit with our own emotions and had some solo time. And I think the thing that I took away from that is, we like also literally couldn't go anywhere. We were literally in the middle of the jungle at this lodge. Like, it was like pouring rain. It was like 3 hours, by 2 boats and a car to get to Manaus. So like we really just had to sit in the suck, or as Brene Brown says, embrace the suck, and not running away and like sitting through the discomfort when both of us were in our patterns and wanting to shut down, but then like committing to stay and being like, we are both working through this, was really a turning point in our relationship. Both of us taking ownership for our side of things. Both of us also making a rule to extend an olive branch, to the other. Like if we are going to have like a hope or dream of something that the other does, to go first, right? To say like the thing that we're going to do first. And that really shifted things, although it was like really hard and uncomfortable. And it was hard and uncomfortable to like face the deepest fears. But that was the turning point where we're like, okay, wow, we're both like really committed. We're in it. And we both are, extending our olive branches, putting down our egos and willing to do the work and willing to say, instead of like, does this fight mean we're not strong, being like, we are so strong that we have this fight and we choose to use it to make us stronger. I actually once saw this post that was like, you're in a horrible relationship. You fight all the time. You trigger each other. You bring up each other's shadow. It's like, just kidding. Those are the healthy relationships. Good luck. And I do think that it's true. It's like good to like, of course, fighting, right? Fighting productively, not calling each other names, being respectful, right? But it's like not being afraid to bring things up and to discuss it and to face it head on. So that was my lesson from the Amazon. And then after the Amazon, we went to Bahia and saw Blake and Glenda again in this cute Brazilian town called Caraíva. And we also like met, Spencer and I got acupuncture there, and we were talking, and this guy's like, "Are you American?" And we're like, "Yeah." Well, and Spencer's Canadian, and he's like, "My son lives in San Francisco. You have to come meet him. He'll be so excited to like meet other Americans." And so he's met his son and his son's wife, and they were super cool. And I was just telling Spencer how I wanted to prioritize more community. And so the lesson or reminder there was like the idea, which they talk about at Burning Man too, the idea of immediacy, where it's like if you meet somebody or like acting on something as it's happening. So at first I was like, we were chatting with them and it was like such a fun vibe and really fun to talk to them. And I was like, okay, well, I hope I see you guys around. And Spencer's like, why don't you guys get dinner with us tonight? And it was a reminder because like 20-year-old Meredith traveling totally would have done that. And they're like, yeah, sure. And it's like, great. Okay, well, let's see you at this tapioca place in 20 minutes. Like that decisiveness and like acting on impulse. And if like something feels in flow, it's a go, and like not like creating kind of time and space to like let the vibe die. You know what I mean? So that was just like a good reminder of the immediacy of like acting on things and taking action immediately. So then after Caraíva, so anyways, we chatted with them. We had a great night and like laughing, and it was fun. And yeah, just a good reminder of how much I love like meeting people on the road and hearing their stories. And when I can't be around my current friends, who I try to call like a friend or two a week while I'm out here to like stay connected to people back home, and I'll like spontaneously text a friend, be like thinking of you. But anyways, when I can't do that, I love meeting new people, learning their stories. Then we went to Bahia Surf Camp, which I talked about with you guys before. Lessons from surf camp to grow, but like the main ones to recap, quick and dirty, are like for surf camp, like it was humbling. I had surfed longer than Spencer, and they kept me in the beginner group longer than Spencer. And so it was a reminder like to come with no ego, first and foremost. And secondly, even though I started surfing before him, he surfed more than me. So it's like you can't expect to like get the results without putting in the hours, was one of those lessons. And then the other was like, what is my intention with surfing? If it's just to play and like be on like whitewater waves or small waves, then like it shouldn't matter if I'm like in the beginner one for longer or not. But it's just like get clear on your intention, kind of like the trip intentions, get clear on your intention and then enjoy it. And I ultimately decided I wanted to like lean in more to surfing. I actually was like, it would be fun to grow in an area that doesn't relate to my profession immediately. Cause a lot of like self-development stuff is for myself, of course, but also to like serve my clients and as a facilitator. And I'm like, I probably like need something like surfing where I can be excited to grow, but it doesn't have any like direct impact on my, I'm not doing it for my business or an output. And this should be, even if you are doing it for your business, hopefully the input and the fun of it is more important and more of a priority anyways. But yeah, all of that's to say, guys, I ended up just being like, I do want to push myself. I want to have fun doing it. Like, but I want to feel like I'm growing and like the soil is fresh, And so in that recommitment, I kind of was able to embrace it more and also put down my ego and also have more of a beginner's mindset and also tap more into my play, which is one of my pillars. Play is power. So that was a main lesson from the surf camp. And then also, as I mentioned from the surf camp as well, that issue of belonging and, feeling a little off center that week because that was a week of the LA fires and my heart was with a lot of my friends in LA. And just kind of feeling like I got off on like an awkward foot there with like, for that reason, like my energy wasn't like 100%. And it was a reminder not to kind of try to force connection, but to instead focus on cultivating the belonging with myself, being present with myself. What do I need? And then kind of reemerging to connect with others. And toward the end of the week, once I had done that and I had taken some solo time and like let it be okay that I wasn't like Miss Popular or the social butterfly that week, because part of me was like, if these people could just see me in LA, like, or elsewhere, like they'd see how funny I am. I'm like so funny. They just listen to powerful stuff. No, but yeah. So it was like giving myself the belonging first, and then seeking connection with others, and trusting that I am enough, even if I'm having an off week or even if like I'm not clicking with somebody immediately. So after Bahia, we went to Puerto Rico and saw our friend Alex and Pavan, who we're about to get married this week. And that was such a soul-filling time because as I talked about in the belonging episode and as I talked about here with like my trip intention, I realized like, community is just so important. And like having a good friend around for like 4 days, Alex and I literally stayed up and talked till 2 a.m., like 3 nights in a row because we just had so much to get through. No stone was unturned, no rabbit hole unexplored. And by the end of it, because we had like talked about everything, then we started creating new stuff. We like started making like little jingles, which were so fun, guys. Like, I'm like, should we make a jingles page? I feel like they'd go viral. I'll just give you guys a taste of one because it's really good. But it was like, up my soul, up my spine, making me feel so divine. Up my soul, up my spine, making me feel so divine. Anyways, so we were just like being silly and like, yeah, creating and having fun and bringing out our best and highest selves. And yeah, for those 4 days, it was just such a reminder to like prioritize friends and prioritize play with friends and just like being silly because I felt like so rejuvenated after that. And then we went to Dominica, the Caribbean's nature island. There's like no huge resorts there. It's all eco resorts and eco lodges and ecotourism and so many beautiful waterfalls, the second largest boiling lake in the world. Really delicious cassava bread. And the main thing in Dominica, the main lesson I would say is a continuation of continuing to like learn other people's stories, like our Airbnb host, learning his story and like learning more about Dominica. We went to go see the like and get a guided tour from one of the indigenous community there, and it's actually the last remaining indigenous land in the Caribbean. And so we got a tour and like learned all about like their history and really took the time to kind of learn like really like interesting things about the island and the different different sides of history of it. And then also, so yeah, I feel like it was kind of the full travel immersion of like the nature, the learning, the connection. We met this amazing Norwegian couple. No, Danish. We met this amazing Danish couple who were, had kids our age, and we had like breakfast and dinner with them at the end of our hike days. And like, that was really sweet just to kind of like connect with like, it's like, we're missing our parents, they're missing their kids. And we all just had like really great conversation. And they were telling us about like things going on in Europe and like asking us our perspective on that and us and theirs and vice versa. Anyway, so Dominica was just like, yeah, good, like nature connection learning. And then we get to Panama, and Panama is like, I loved it so much. So again, this is the power of community. I decided, like at first, Spencer and I were like, should we go to Boquete? Should we go to the San Blas Island? Should we go to Bocas del Toro, which is another island? Like there's so much to see and do in Panama. But ultimately, I thought about how we bopped around in Brazil. And while I'm so grateful that we saw so much of Brazil, we were just in a place for like less than a week at a time. And I just felt like in Panama, the need to root down. So I was like, no, we are just going to pick one place and we're going to stay there for the whole month. And I sent a note out to my Instagram community. And I was like, does anyone have any recs in Panama? And then Brandon from Super Bloom, which is another amazing LA community, connected us to his friends in Playa Venao, which is an amazing beach surf town, like 5 hours from Panama City. And coincidentally, this couple that we met on our way back from the Amazon to Manaus, they recommended us this beach break surf camp in Panama. We had actually also gone to the Bahia surf camp, which was also their recommendation. And so, anyways, they like both signs led to Playa Venao. And in Playa Venao, like it was such the right call to just stay there the full month because I feel like, oh, my flowers just blossomed. Like talking about like full bloom, like I feel like I converted all the lessons from earlier in the trip of prioritizing community, of just being in one place, of like getting in the flow of something, of sticking with it with surfing and having fun and enjoying the learning. Like I improved exponentially on surfing. I finally dropped in on bigger green waves, as they say, like waves before they crash, which I had always been scared to do, but I kept doing it. Like it was like tricycle training wheels. Like first the instructor would push me and then they would like kind of be right behind me and tell me when to go. And then I was doing it on my own and it was like really powerful. So like it was just accumulation of that, right? Like of all the lessons from earlier in the trip, like that. And then I took learnings from other healers and like, you know, was their student. And then I also offered 3 powerful stuff events, 2 breathwork workshops for powerful stuff, and 1 best morning ever, which I got to share at Casa Vanau, which was the community that Brandon connected me to, which were other friends of his from LA who moved to Panama. And so it was just like this beautiful exchange of like taking other people's classes, learning from them, offering my stuff, getting better at surfing, feeling like a local, like saying hi to people, people knowing my name. I was in a few WhatsApp groups in Playa Venao, like not to brag. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it was just like, and it was like such a reminder of like, I love traveling. I love meeting new people, but I love having enough time to like root down somewhere and actually connect with people. And so I felt like I could really exhale in Playa Venao. And I can't recommend Playa Venao enough for anyone who wants to go. Like the beach is beautiful, the community is amazing, the surfing is really great if you're wanting to learn and you're an experienced surfer. It's like such a good surf culture there. And that really felt like the accumulation. And also in Playa Venao, like I'm not going to lie to you, I was also thinking a lot about this idea of which I talked about in the Pleasure and Power podcast, and it came up again. I got my Akashic records read, which I never had done before, which is like the spiritual practice where they kind of, I'm going to butcher this, I can't probably say it correctly, but like they kind of like talk to your spirit guides and like kind of give you answers, or not answers, but like guidance on like things around your purpose right now to kind of help guide you on your path and reconnect you to your source. And anyways, I was asking the Akashic records, like, who am I supposed to speak to? Who's supposed to receive my message? Because I think a lot, in this day and age, kind of, then it circled back to kind of the musing for my medicine ceremony in Peru of like, you're not here to like try to convince anyone or change anyone's mind. But you're here to serve the people who are ready to listen, who need hope, because I was thinking deeply a lot about like, when I do have the disbelief of like, I can't believe people voted for Trump, but, people did, people I know did. And so like, it is what it is. But when I think about my message of hope, not to say like that, hopefully it does resonate for those people as well. But to not try to convince anybody. My message is to help people find inspired action within themselves and act from their power, but also to build bridges of empathy and to know that as we take care of ourselves and process our own emotions and connect to our highest self and connect to our play and our joy, we're thus able to empathize with others, because we can only empathize with others to the extent that we've done the emotional work on ourselves. And our world needs that now more than ever. I've said it before, but we're in an empathy crisis. I think it goes to show in America, with people feeling either like divisive or hatred toward other groups, or just voting for their own immediate self-interest and not thinking about the marginalized groups that are very deeply impacted by what's going on in our administration. And I believe that like love deserves to win. Like when we start building bridges, when we start empathizing, as Pocahontas would say, if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew. When we start doing this, when we start empathizing, that's where real change happens. And then that's where we drop the I'm right or you're wrong, but like, let's help each other build a better America. Let's help each other build a better world. Let's care for each other. Let's take care of each other. And in this empathetic leadership, which we need now more than ever, I was just so reminded, like, in hearing that in my Akashic records of like, yeah, who I'm, like, how I want to be speaking to people, and to continue to, like I said, alchemize like the rage into something like productive and beautiful and inspiring, because I believe that we all have, our own unique power and purpose, and that one of us succeeding doesn't take away from someone else. Actually, empathetic leadership and abundance mindset is saying, when I succeed, you succeed. When you succeed, I succeed. And that's my genuine hope for humanity. Anyways, so that was a big note for Playa Vinal, but it was just something I'm thinking about deeply in my own message and purpose, as I also approach my 34th birthday next week, which is crazy because this is 33, they say, is your Jesus year, which is like the year you come back to your purpose, like Jesus's resurrection. So I know I'm getting kind of worked up toward the end of this podcast. But yeah, it's like thinking about my purpose and how I want to contribute to the world, and like my unique journey and tools, and hopefully how that can help serve and empower other people. Guys, so taking this all in, I know this was kind of like a little bit more of a all over episode. We're kind of processing my trip together. So thanks for listening. It was like soup's purse being super personal, if you will. And yeah, I just want to say that like, I think it's also like been cool. Like while I have been thinking about all of those things, kind of coming back to what I said about the Peru being the high and the low, of like, holy shit, like the upgrade that I launched at the start of my trip just came to a close this week. It was week 12. And I might have said this at the top, but if I didn't, I'll say it now. It's crazy because so much happened for these women in 3 months. Like, they started making career shifts, stepping into their power in their business, living out their ideal scene, getting paid to do what they love, having an empire, like an aligned partnership that like is like eons better than the past, really like trusting in their lovability, and having like a lifelong group of sisters forever. And this all happened like in the months that I was away. Like, I led this group virtually, and it's crazy like that it also like, was the reason I was able to travel. And like, so much happens in 4 months, in a sense of like, I led that. I was in all these different countries. I've had all these musings, and I haven't even been back to my home in Los Angeles yet. And, so much has happened in the world. God knows, so much has happened this last month. Politically, so much has happened in LA with the fires, and I'm sure for you all listening in your own lives as well, like, so many great things have happened and so many hard things have happened. And it's important to kind of take these times in between seasons to take stock of our lives, whether you were, also traveling or in one place, like traveling the land of your mind. Yeah, what are you releasing? What are you releasing? It had to be perfect the way it was, even if maybe you're like, oh, would have, could have, should have. I think for me, I'm releasing, like I was saying, kind of maybe how I planned the trip kind of more slapshod the first half where we were like bopping around and I didn't feel like fully in my flow. I'm releasing it because it reminded me of how I do want to travel. And then it gave me the most epic second half of my trip. Not that, again, not that there weren't great memories the first half, but just I'm talking about like my optimal fully expressed travel. So like, yeah, I'm releasing that. I'm releasing, like I was saying, like the anger, and I'm transforming it into clarity in my joy and my power, in my voice, and in what I want to serve, how I want to show up as a leader, how I want to show up with my message, and kind of planting the seed of having even more clarity around who I am and what I'm doing as I enter back into, my life in LA. And how powerful is that for you to think about, as you think for your questions for this season, stepping into from winter to spring? What have been the challenging things the last few months for you? How have they been challenging? What resentment or contempt maybe were you carrying from them? And then what would it take to let that go? How might it actually have been the perfect lesson or thing that you needed to awaken or activate you right now? And what have been the really joyful things? Where have you felt so in flow or so expressed the last few months? And where do you want to tell the universe, like, yes, more of this? Yes, please. Thank you more, you know? And then lastly, like kind of combining the two, like what does that look like for this next season? Like who is the you at the end of this next season who's going to be like, fuck yeah, like I was exactly where I needed to be when spring sprung, like I this is the me who like steps into my power in this way because I went through that winter, because I went through that cocooning, because I gave myself extra stillness and hibernation. So how do you want to take those learnings, both the challenging and like the joyful, and how do you want to carry them into this next chapter of full bloom? Who is that you who is fully expressed? What does that feel like? How can you step into that right now? How can you take those into your next chapter? And I think for me, going back to LA, I'm taking it back with so much gratitude for like the traveling that I've done. And also just so much of a reminder of like how much I love and feel so grateful for my community. I just want to smush them, and both my immediate friends, my powerful stuff community, loyal listeners, and yeah, and then clarity around voice, and hopefully like as you think about your own next season, like what you want to talk about and how you want to show up and what that looks like more and more for you every day, and how you can preserve your joy, how you can preserve your joy. Yeah. And kind of like if you were applying, or if you resonated with any of my lessons that I learned for myself, it's like, how can you preserve your joy? How can you use your voice in this day and age? How can you cultivate your own internal belonging so you can have the external belonging? What issue with maybe a partner or a friend could you sit in the suck, say the thing, and face it head on, knowing that you both are committed to your highest growth and the highest growth of your relationship? And how can you like what is your optimal intention or flow for this next chapter to really root down and let yourself bloom? Wow, guys. Okay, we did it. We got through it. Thanks for going on that winding journey with me. I know we were really like processing together. So we'll just do a little brief meditation today. Let's do a little standing one. Like, why not? So, and if you're sitting and you want to stay seated, that's fine. Just imagine your feet on the earth. This will be a nice little quick one that you can always return to when you just want a little grounding. So I just want you to imagine your feet planted on the earth, lift up all 10 toes, and then just plant them back down again. Imagine roots coming in from your heels into the earth. And as you press your heels into the earth, rotate your thighs in and lift your core up. And as you take a deep breath in, exhale it out. And imagine your exhale sending your roots even further into the earth. And I want you to pull out any heaviness from any part of your body that was maybe like just stuckness or stagnation or contempt or just any heaviness from this last chapter. I want you to pull it out like you're pulling it into your hands just holding it in your hands. Maybe you're kind of visually in your mind's eye seeing it as you pull it out. And as you hold it, just thanking it for what it's come here to show you. Thanking it for all the lessons that it's given you. Thanking it for reminding you of how strong you are. And as you're holding the heaviness, now in your heart, I want you to think of all of the things from this last chapter that felt actually really joyful. Maybe it was friendships you connected with, connecting more deeply with yourself, little moments of deep presence. And I want you to blow that onto the heavy soil in your hands, like you're blowing golden dust. Maybe take a few breaths onto it, a few of these golden blows. The joy, the friendships, the moments alone. And go ahead and rub your hands together like you're transforming the soil, mixing both the good and the challenging into something beautiful and luminous, beautiful fertilized soil. And then go ahead and place both hands on the earth like you're pressing the soil into the earth, feeling that new seed start to root down even further, rooting in, connecting with the energy of the roots from your heels. And as you have your hands on the earth, feeling that new seed, that new space inside of you, and getting a vision in your mind's eye of that you who's ready to step into their full bloom and expression. And as you pat the soil, you can gently start to come to stand back up, placing both hands on your heart and feeling you start to expand, like your chest opening up, your spine lifting even higher, and starting to get a vision of you in this radiance as you step into this new chapter. How you're showing up, how you're moving through your day, the joy that other people feel by being with you. And then just asking, as always, because our highest self is always there, just asking this you in your heart space who's in this full bloom, what is the perfect thing that you can do next to continue to water this seed? How can you continue to water this seed? Trusting whatever they say, thanking them, and then bring both hands up like you're stretching up full bloom energy, bringing your hands down through high prayer, through heart center, aligning with your energy into this next chapter, taking a deep breath in, exhale it out, and then another breath in, and exhale, slowly come back into this space. Welcome back. Wow, I love a good little brief somatic medi. I hope you planted a powerful seed for your next chapter. Thank you for processing with me my trip musings, guys. And I can't wait to share next week, maybe for some birthday musings, maybe a little bit more on soft power. We'll see. We'll see where the wind takes us, and as always, if you have any suggestions or desires of a powerful stuff episode, please tell me. I am all ears. And like I said as well, if you want to join my next group coaching cohort, the upgrade to do a deep dive into your inner power and break that place of fear and convert it into a foundation of unshakable inner trust, call me, beat me if you want to reach me, or send me an email, and I would love to have you. I will see you all next week for more powerful stuff. Hey, you. Thank you for coming on this powerful journey with me. I hope it was as powerful for you as it was for me. And if it was, it would mean the world to me if you rate, review, and subscribe to Powerful Stuff so I can keep bringing you the goods. We can keep going on this transformative journey together. And if there's powerful stuff that you want to share with me, with the Powerful Stuff community, tag us on Instagram at That's Powerful Stuff or The Meredith Baker. And I look forward to seeing you next week for more powerful stuff.